Check.
All right, wow. All right, I think we're going to give everyone just a couple minutes to join here. But thank you all for joining us for today's event we're about to get started with. I'm going to let Sunny with Dell here take it away in just a few minutes. We're just going to give everybody maybe like, let's say another minute to hop on. All right, y'all. We are going to go ahead and get started, I guess. We've got a lot of information that we want to get with y'all today. We want this to be interactive as possible, so we're gonna, I'm gonna unmute everybody and allow you guys to be in charge of muting your mics. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to use the chat box, or also feel free to speak up. Especially once we, you know, at the end, we have all of our grilling stuff, and if you guys have any questions about the presentation. All right, Sunny, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off to you as I'm muting everyone.
Thank you, Tori. I am Sunny Stover, so I am the National Compute Specialist supporting Advizex from Dell Technologies. Really excited about this event today. Thank you guys for registering. We're going to try and keep it interactive, so if you don't want to unmute and speak up, feel free to use the chat box if you have any questions. I'm going to go over a little bit about our next-gen server portfolio, and then I'm going to hand it over to Patrick Stasko, who's the Director of Solution Architecture with Advizex, to go through a demo of our Open Managed Enterprise systems. So first, a little bit about the partnership with Dell and Advizex. So it's a long-term partnership, 22 years. Advizex hold capabilities and technical certifications and deployment certifications across all of our data center LOBs. C.R. Howdyshell, who's the president of Advizex, sits on our Dell Partner Advisory Board. They've been one of the highest ranked partners for hyperconverged infrastructure for years, and they've been recognized over the years for multiple Partner of the Year awards. What's exciting for you guys, for customers, is the solution capabilities that Advizex has. So they have all the storage platforms, network platforms, server platforms to help you guys with demos and even proof of concepts. And Patrick, if you want to interject anything here, feel free.
Hey, thanks. Welcome, everybody. Thanks, Sunny, for kicking this off along with Tori. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, I think this is a really good summary of Advizex and the Dell Technologies kind of relationship, what we have here. Part of the many hats that I wear here at Advizex, I'm also responsible for our solution centers. So over on the right-hand side, we have various assets that we can demo or POC in various fashions. This is physically located outside of Cleveland and Ohio in Independence. And so we have a lot of different capabilities, which when we get to the second part of this about the Open Managed Enterprise, you'll see a lot of these assets kind of real time in a real environment. So we're very nimble, we're very flexible with what we can kind of tailor for our customers. So thanks for the pass off there, Sunny. Back to you.
Thanks, Patrick. So what's driving the need for new data center architecture? So from an operations resource viewpoint, it really means IT must reevaluate what tasks it should focus on to enable and afford transformation. Here's a few of those fundamental tasks. So we all have problems with forecasting. So am I over provisioned? Will I be under provisioned? Every customer struggles with CapEx and OpEx budget constraints. Do my tech refresh cycles match up? Do I have to refresh a server this year in storage, next year? The unpredictability of growth. We all saw that in the past year with COVID, right? All of a sudden, we went from businesses that were, 80, 90% of the workforce was in the office to I have to support these people at home. That's unpredictable, and we have to keep the lights on, so we have to keep supporting them. Limited human capital, so I'm asking less people to do more work. And then finally, the complexity of cloud, not just public cloud, but private cloud, hybrid cloud, and silos of cloud. So we really have to focus on driving value. And what does drive value, right? So we see operations, clouds, and workloads as three areas where IT needs to modernize. First, there's operations. In short, that's delivering resources on demand, and any delays can make or break any transformation project, which it impacts the entire value chain. And of course, the infrastructure must stay up and running. So you have to find ways to automate the provisioning and delivery process, but also optimize for operational efficiency. And that's the major reason many IT or organizations have looked at public cloud. So you can rapidly and easily deploy on-demand services. But we know that islands of clouds managed separately is inefficient and actually adds to the complexity of IT. IDC states that half of organizations worldwide have an executive mandate to support hybrid cloud environments. That means they see value in both data center and public cloud and want to pull operations together into a common hybrid cloud operating experience. And finally, we have workloads, getting the most value from new business processes. Transactional and analytical workloads require new levels of performance, stability, resiliency, and efficiency that only a modern infrastructure can provide. So what do we have to do? At the highest level, we find there are two overarching desired infrastructure outcomes. One is a modernized data center based on technology that can support workloads for digital transformation and automating that technology. And two, a hybrid cloud acceleration based on consistent virtualized infrastructure and a consistent cloud operating model. With integrated systems infrastructure for an on-premises cloud operating model, you can achieve both. So this is where PowerEdge comes in. So pushing ahead with PowerEdge, how we're taking these new compute platforms and really helping you tune workloads and be ready for use as soon as we deliver the infrastructure. There are three key tenets to the next gen server platform. I'll go into each one of these a little more deeply. The first is adaptive compute. The second is autonomous compute infrastructure. And the third is proactive resilience. So adaptive compute, what does that mean? Really, at its core, it means we want to deliver you an infrastructure that can adapt to new technology, that can help you accelerate your workloads and accelerate your business outcomes. There are some really cool technologies that we tie into adaptive compute that we released with 15G. The first, with the new CPUs and new memory support, we have to be able to cool these systems, right? So we introduced multi-vector cooling, so we have better airflow through the systems. We introduced direct liquid cooling across much of the 17 servers that we released. What's really cool, when you have liquid cooling, you have to be able to detect if you have a leak, right? So we introduced Dell Leak Sense, which can detect a leak as small as 0.01 milliliters. Very important. A thoughtful thermal design. So we actually had to move the power supplies from 2 on one side to each side to, one, increase that airflow and really give you a more optimal design. And then finally, a focus on acceleration. So we've got to be able to support FPGAs, GPUs across the entire infrastructure. Second, we have autonomous compute infrastructure, and really that's intelligent systems that work together independently enabling rapid digital transformation and productivity. Now, how do we do this? So as your business evolves, managing your infrastructure becomes very challenging, especially when it comes to these disparate siloed systems. We deliver a technology that discovers and enables other systems, makes recommendations, and communicates effectively based on your guidelines. So this is where Open Manage comes in, and Patrick's going to get into this. So we have rapid platform enablement. We can manage up to 8,000 servers and hyperconverged infrastructure and even other vendor systems. And finally, we have proactive resilience. So really, this is all about security, right? So we define proactive resilience as systems and software designed for secure interactions and the capability to anticipate potential threats. So there's a couple ways we do this. One, Dell, we're the only company that from the factory to delivery, we deliver a cross-portfolio solution for cryptographically verified hardware integrity. Now, what does all that mean? Really, what that means is from the build process through the shipping and delivery process to when you get it set up, you can get on that system and verify that everything is exactly as it was when it left the factory. And then we're also the only server vendor that offers dynamic system lockdown, so you can lock down these systems remotely. Let's get a little bit into the portfolio. So this right here, these are some of the industry-enabled technologies. So this is similar across all of our competitors. So we have the AMD EPYC processors, PCIe Gen 4, memory bandwidth increase. So now we're supporting 32 DIMMs across much of these platforms. It's 8-channel, larger DIMM support. Of course, we have the Intel Optane memory. And then what's really cool is this OCP 3.0. So rather than you having to commit to a network daughter card of our choice, this gives you a lot more flexibility in designing your network infrastructure. These are some of the technologies that are unique to Dell. So the first is this BOSS S2. So we released BOSS cards in our prior generation, but now it's hot plug serviceable, hardware RAID controller. So we just continue advancing the technology. Hardware RAID across NVMe, so that's something especially for legacy applications that really could come in handy. Prior generation, it was all software RAID. What I think is really cool is this Snap IO, so I can take one X16 PCI and split it between 2 CPUs. And then I mentioned before the system cooling, so we have direct liquid cooling, we have leak sense, we're the multi-vector air. It's all about keeping these high performance systems in a good operating condition. And this is the portfolio. So we announced 17 new models earlier this year. So at the top, you see we break everything out. So we have your edge, we have specialized platforms, modular platforms. What I want you to pay attention to here is on these rack servers, you guys are gonna see a platform you haven't before. So traditionally with our Intel platforms, it went, the R640 to 740 to 840. Now we've noticed that the gap between our mid-range, our mid like 600 level or 500 level server to our high end like 800, that gap is getting bigger and bigger. So we actually introduced new models to fill in that gap, and that's the XS series. So there is a 750 and a 750 XS. That XS it really fits between your mid to high end. So we're really paying attention to price points and the best designs for our customers. In the marketing material, you're also going to see we want to take a lot of the guesswork out of designing a new compute infrastructure. So I put this in here as an example, but if I'm a customer and I want to look, I'm turning on SQL 2019, I can go in here and I can see there's 4 platforms here that are really designed for that. So you're going to see that across, conventional workloads as well as specialized workloads. Just talk to Patrick, talk to your Advizex teams. we can help you find the proper server for any application that you're bringing online. And that's all I have. Patrick, I'm going to turn it over to you for the OpenManage demo.
Sure. Well, I just want to throw out there again, we want to keep this interactive. So if there's any questions, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself. Let me give me 1 minute to get a couple things up, and I am happy to get going here. All right, let's go ahead and share a screen. Tori has spotlighted me. Oh my gosh, we are live here, guys. All right, so yeah, thanks Sunny for all that information, and obviously this is something that Sunny and I we live and breathe every day. I'm here to kind of talk about OpenManage Enterprise, and I think this is a piece of software that's included. There are some license features if we want to integrate with vCenter or vSphere, but a lot of this stuff is, this specific instance is out of the box. This is all what you can be doing, today, with deploying an OVA file in your VMware environment. So this is going to be a live demo, so sometimes we can crash and burn, but hopefully that's not going to be the case here today. So first and foremost, I have it integrated with our Active Directory. This is inside of our Solution Center, again, in Cleveland, Ohio, and we have a number of different assets. So really, when we log in, we really kind of have this, kind of high-level dashboard where we see overall device health, overall alerts and recent alerts. We talk about warranty. I mean, there's definitely a lot of information, and these dashboards are configurable. But this is kind of the default dashboard that's really going to be like, oh, what's catching my eye? Is it the firmware? Is it upcoming warranty? Is it, do I have a memory dim error? So we're going to drive into some of those kind of errors that actually I actually have a bad memory dim, and it worked out as such that I can really show you some of the integrations as it ties in with Support Assist, which is basically the component that ties your physical assets over to Dell.com to create an SR ticket, upload those bundles, and then actually deliver a faster response time for kind of your break fix type of situations. So there's a lot of different components here. I'm not going to go into all of them. But again, if there's something that I'm going through you want to see, just speak up. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to start over here with devices. We're going to drop down menu and kind of get like, hey, what does this lay of the land really look like, right? So these are all the various different assets, and as what you can see here is we have a variety of different things managed here. We have a 3-node VxRail. We have a 3-node PowerScale, formerly known as Isilon. We have various PowerEdge servers, 740XD, the new AMD platform, and the R840, which is the 4-socket. Various Dell networking, and a fully integrated IDPA appliance as well. So there is a multitude of other items that you can integrate. Storage devices, they are expanding storage devices, PDUs, and other modular systems. So any of you have Vertexes in the fields or remote offices, even the traditional, a little bit older M1000E chassis, any FX2, so any of the modular from the PowerEdge series that we can go ahead and manage as well. So this provides us like a really, really good view. And so kind of one of the things I really want to highlight is like, I get in a lot of conversations with customers about firmware. How do I manage firmware? How do I manage firmware across the fleet, right? So this is a very, very upfront, forefront kind of conversation. So I'm going to kind of show you some of that right here. So underneath configuration, part of the tool is firmware compliance. So we basically create a baseline, and we can create custom baselines, but this baseline that I have is actually comparing it against the Dell.com repository. So this is checked on a regular schedule. This is a daily schedule, and then we get to go ahead and apply that baseline to various server components. And so really quickly, out of my 3 servers that I have here, I can see that, oh, geez, I have a Red X, I'm out of compliance. But we're going to go a step further, right? And so through the initial inventory and regular scanned inventory, we can exactly see where we are at with the current version And with this particular baseline, which mirrors the Dell.com baseline, what is the current version? How far off am I from here? And so this is really like, hey, am I one rev out or am I 2 rev outs? But I think probably arguably the most important thing here is a reboot required for this firmware update? You know, traditionally, at least when I was in internal IT, you know, I would always be looking through the release notes. Is this an online or is this an offline? Do I need to account for a maintenance window? And I think it's worthy to note that applying these firmware baseline components can actually be done through a schedule that would also, designed properly and coordinated properly, could be done within a maintenance window, right? So I'm going to, I got a couple servers here. We're gonna, I know this one people are using, so I'm not gonna do that one. But this is, we'll do one of these two. I know these two aren't in use. So what we're gonna go to do is we're gonna go ahead and make this server compliant. And we'll see maybe by the end of the session, we'll see if this server is actually fully compliant. We'll kind of monitor what this looks like. We are just going to do a power with forced shutdown, and we're going to do this now. Yes, I'm aware. We're going to rip the rug out from underneath it. So it submitted a job. Everything's job-based. This gets submitted in a queue. And what else I'm going to go do is actually get over to that server to kind of show you real time what this looks like. So I'll go back to my devices. And this, if I'm not mistaken, this was this guy right here. And there's a couple different ways that we can monitor this, right? We can see what's going on at the virtual console, which I can do right here. And this is basically, if you were to log into iDRAC on your PowerEdge directly, a lot of this information is pulled from iDRAC and represented very much in the same fashion. So what we see here, though, is we have a hardware log, and we can monitor how this firmware is going. Actually, they might be underneath alerts. Yes, so we start to see where, if we look past, the job hasn't kicked off yet, but this is where you would actually be able to monitor each individual component that is actually being upgraded. So essentially what's happening in the background is pulling it down into the repository, uploading it to the iDRAC, the lifecycle manager, then actually applying that, rebooting into the lifecycle manager and to actually apply those updates. So we are going to launch a virtual console, and we'll watch this in the background. We'll see it reboot. I'm going to pull this off over here. Get that back. All right, as that kind of chews on that for a little bit of time, we're also going to go talk about some of the other features that a lot of my customers are kind of using with this platform. One of the things is about policies, specifically with BIOS settings. Typically, I have a number of different customers that have different clusters, maybe a web cluster or in a healthcare vertical. I have a very heavy transactional database cluster, and I need to set these BIOS settings uniquely per cluster. So with templates, we can actually do that and then apply that to a logical grouping of servers. So just to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like is when we actually, we kind of get into the components of what a BIOS setting would look like through policy, not actually within pressing, F8 or F11 and then fumbling through it and waiting to capture that at boot. I have to, wait, and if I missed it, then I got to reboot it again. We've all been there, right? So there are some out of the box type of configurations, like, hey, I want performance, I want my USB ports on. Where do I want to boot from by default? Really, I think the real meat and the potatoes is actually in the advanced view here, right? Because when we start to go down and we look at some of the BIOS setting recommendations, whether it's VMware or from a SQL or an Oracle cluster, we can become very, very granular in terms of what we're turning off and on through policy, and then also applying that across our entire fleet. As Sunny mentioned before, that this supports up to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Sunny, I think 8,000 actual managed nodes. So he's giving me a thumbs up, so good. So basically, we're taking this and applying this across a lot of nodes. And this is all done through this interface and without actually logging into each individual iDRAC in the fleet. So just to kind of give you a quick idea, right, if we want virtualization technology, or maybe we don't want hyper-threading if it's a Intel-based processor, maybe we need to have specific trusted platform module settings, maybe it's boot settings, a variety of other settings. You know, we can go ahead and drill that down. I've actually used this kind of with some of the, I had some customers with vSphere 7 and SD cards to actually change the boot order from SD boot to boot from SAN. So this was all configurable within a policy. Let's go check out our update. Let's see if it's doing it yet. Bummer. We'll get to it. Maybe I'll have to do a force kick. Other features that I would also like to talk about is kind of the support assist. And I guess, you know, I'm going to pause. I don't have the chat up over here. Is there any questions over there? Anything coming in?
I'm working on them, Patrick.
Yeah, there were, but I think John's got it.
All right, cool. So we're going to take a look at the PowerScale cluster over here. I believe it's this node, if my memory serves me. So we have a bad DIM. And so with Support Assist, we are able to actually see the proactive case that was automatically generated and created from the system with no interaction from an administrator like myself or an end user, that through the integrations of Open Manage Enterprise and iDRAC, through the actual regular data collection, that a correctable memory error was logged, and it was disabled for the DIM, and it gives us the DIM slot, DIM, you know, A5, right? And my service health, because of my one DIM is experiencing some problems, has gone offline or could be offline, right? And so with this integration with Support Assist, we're able to see that, hey, we actually have a case number, an SR ticket already opened. This is the case title. And they've actually proactively reached out to myself once this feature was turned on and enabled for it, that, hey, now I have a case with that. And furthermore, is there are support collections which are also automatically generated and submitted to the case in the event of troubleshooting. And so a dispatch will reach out to you to see if there's any further interactions that's required or necessary, and then you kind of complete the case, you know, as such. So usually in this case, they're going to send a new DIM, you know, a CE will install it, or I'll install it. It'll come back and we'll have a healthy, clean bill of health. So I believe, though, we actually just did that on this other node. Must be the month of DIMs or something going on here. I was pretty excited. I actually had an error to show people.
Patrick, did you want to take a look at the log? And you could actually see where the OME has actually at least deployed the packages to the server. You know, the server may not be responding fast enough.
Sure. Yeah, not a problem. Maybe I should have did a forced shutdown, maybe not a graceful shutdown. Yeah, so kind of going back off that point, this is a server where actually the DIM was replaced, and we see the chassis intrusion. This is me prying it open with my bare hands. And then after boot and after the next scan, that the device health improves. So again, these once these are resolved, these events also automatically clear. Take a look at the 740 over here. Take a look at the logs. And I think it's also important to note here, although we're all doing this within Dell Open Manage, you can still manage and directly access the iDRAC like you've been accustomed to as well. So there are certain times, I'm not aware of any, where you would actually log into the iDRAC. John, thanks for redirecting me here. And as you can see within this log, within real time here, we see that we are, it has downloaded the lifecycle controller firmware. It has transferred at this rate, has taken this much time. It was successfully downloaded. The firmware is initializing and it's verifying, and we are seeing this this firmware update that we kicked off a little bit ago actually happening in real time. And what we'll see eventually here, and again, we may just run out of natural time, is this will actually reboot into Lifecycle Controller Manager, apply those staged updates that were, the firmware was updating initialized, and then it will boot into that, and then actually reboot itself, and then ESXi would come back up naturally. There's actually one more real, there's one more real high-level talking point that I really want to talk about, is when we have a large fleet, is how do we manage support contracts, or how do we have an understanding of what assets, where they are in terms of my support contracts with Dell, right? So this also, we're connecting to all the iDRACs. We have all the serial numbers for our entire fleet, and through an API service within OME reaches out to Dell.com to understand what type of warranty that you have, what type of warranty level, right? Is it 8x5 or 24x7? And I think most importantly, how many days remaining in terms of warranty? And as you can see that, we're all over the board, right? Some we have 60 days, and I'll have to work on, work with Sunny and John on this one, fixing that. But, a number of our assets, except for these, except for the power scale, is anywhere, pretty far out from a warranty support aspect. And all this is also exportable too, to your typical Excel spreadsheet or whatever have you, just in case if you need a, sling data, correlate data for budgeting, for additional quoting. So, and these are all things that Advizex, a partner like us, can help you with. Let's see if we have here. As we see, server finally gracefully rebooted. It's reconnecting and it's moving on along. There's one more thing that I do want to talk about before I hand it over to Mr. John Bloom to talk about Open Manage Mobile, is also the power management right here. Unfortunately, I don't have this up and running, but I'm really excited about this feature capability. Is that what we'll be able to do, hopefully this next session, is retrieve all the power requirements, and when we tie it in with our UPS that we have supporting the solution center, when we actually go on battery power, is then to be able to create policies and apply those policies to iDRAC to either one, shut down servers, or two, change it from a performance-based policy to a low power policy to extend the runtime of our environment. So this is something that is on my personal radar to really kind of dig deeper into. These capabilities are native to the platform. And so I'm hoping that the next demo, the next event, that I can really drill down into this, right? So, but yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm good here unless there's any questions out there lingering. If there is, I'll be happy to address those. So I'll give a quick second. I don't know if there's anything coming in. Let's see.
I think we're good right now.
All right, we're good. Okay. Well, then I'm going to stop sharing for the time being, and then I'm going to kick this over to Mr. John Bloom, that he's going to give you a quick OME mobile demo.
All right.
So over to you, John.
All right. I know I'm between me and the dinner for everybody else. How much time do I have? Because I can talk all day. Oh, I don't want to do that.
About 10 minutes, John.
All righty, good. All right. Hopefully we can see the phone here. All right, we can see the phone.
Yep.
So for those who are here, Open Manage Mobile is not just a nifty, geeky toy. I've been in IT since about 81. I've managed thousands of servers for the University of Illinois, designed and managed thousands of servers for multiple universities for clusters and daily operations. We all know, you guys are all, you gentlemen and ladies are all aware of the time and effort it takes sometimes to drill down to something that's not working the way we want it to do, or to get the information, for our management leaders, etc. And so how much time might be spent by your time and yourself just having to find the tag, find the information, because somebody took the plates off and it's all racked in and I can't tell where it's at. I don't know what the warranty is. I don't know what the performance is. I don't know if it's even in the right rack. So Open Manage Enterprise Mobile is more than just a tool to be the satellite for Open Manage Enterprise. It's the way to basically, just be able to just quickly find while you're walking the aisles or you've sent any member of your staff in there to see what's going on. So to that point, if we go and we look and we just pull this up, now this is a dummy data. I actually was using it to connect to actual real live data center, but to the benefit of security, we weren't able to connect it necessarily to Advizex's network. And so that's a strong point that I want to bring up. You're able to use this in a dark site, okay? So if you're wanting to connect and you want to be able to leverage Bluetooth and get all the information, and so only yourself or maybe your partner Advizex are the only ones that have access to it while they're on-prem and while they can reach the infrastructure there, that's all the farther it's going to go. We've got a lot of security. The federal government uses this. We've got banks all around the world that are using this, the military. So lots of white papers and information. Okay, so I'm talking a lot here, but we bring this up and we're sitting here and we can look, very easily. We can take a look at our home environment. We can look at templates that we've created. We can look at the jobs that have been created. For example, Patrick was deploying a job there. You want to find out, hey, what's going on? What is the status of jobs that have been deployed and that have run? I can see, well, these have run. Did they run properly? I can see that they did. Okay, great. That's off my mind. I don't necessarily have to run back to my desk and find out and give the status. Maybe I have to deploy a template. Okay, I kind of want to build one on Scratch here. Somebody says I need to configure this. I need to have this type of CPU. I need to have all these different components, network parts and switches, memory and RAM. Now, if I'm leveraging the MX, there's a lot of great things I could do there. I can pull from my resources of parts and deploy this template, and then I can report back to the team, yep, I did it. I deployed it. Dude, I did it while I was sitting in the parking lot at Walmart. Maybe it's on the beach, okay? But I can also check on that deployment. So we can still take care of our many responsibilities for our jobs and for our team, as well as when we're taking care of responsibilities for our families, especially in this time of COVID and not necessarily being able to be in the office all the time. But let's look at some of the meat and potatoes in here. So if we pull this up now, and I could define this to be many different types of IP subgroups or domains or whatever, but this is the one demo that I'm going to run through here to show you. So this would be just the same as if we were in production, because we'd be gathering all of this information and looking at it at a portal. In this case, my portal is my mobile phone, and this is just a Samsung S9, okay? You can use all kinds of cell phones here. So maybe I want to take a look and see what's in this particular MX chassis. Well, as you saw from Patrick, I can see a whole lot of great information. And here on my fingertips, I can see the health of the chassis, of the compute nodes. I can see the alerts. I can see, wow, I've got 1,700 alerts. Are there any that I really need to look at? Which ones are real important right now? Well, I could go look at all those alerts and see which ones are important, report back again to my team without necessarily having to be in the data center. Or if I'm in the data center and somebody else has the crash cart, I don't have to wait. I don't have to go run around trying to find a way to connect, to interact. I've got the information right at my fingertips to be able to connect and find out what's going on, look at the alert data. It's not just oh, you have a problem, and then we're trying to figure out what the heck does this code mean. We actually can see who, what, where, and why is having the problem. And then going back again, if we want to look at the home, and again, it can be servers, it can be racks. We can look individually at each individual server. So just as Patrick was showing you there, I can see the particular server in question, tag. I could turn on the front lights. I could turn on the back lights. So maybe it's a long column, and I've got my partner, and he's behind there. And it's like, hey, I need you to pull out this power supply. I need to work on which one. I can't tell. It's the third one from the bottom of the seventh row over. Well, which one is that? Okay, let me turn on the flashing lights here. So the LEDs will start flashing on the back of it, and your coworker will know exactly where to go. Or maybe it's someone else in your office who's not even an IT professional. Maybe everybody's gone, and you just sent we just sent a box, leveraging Support Assist box, power supply needs to be up, and everybody's gone. We could talk to some other staff member. We could walk them through. There's a feature that we also call virtual augmentation. It's a little bit difficult to deploy when I'm using the demo, but we can get this set up. So if you guys want to see this, let Patrick know. And we literally have the ability now to virtually walk through one of your coworkers at one of your sites, and they could actually physically, through virtual fingers, connect, find the right part that needs to be swapped out and placed, and find the correct one and swap it out, the correct piece, and get the job done. A lot of cool things we can do. But as we look through this, we can see the inventory, we can see what's going on, we can see memory details, all the things that Patrick showed you with Open Manage Enterprise, I can do with a mobile device right there without having to bring in a rack unit. So hope this is beneficial, guys. And I stopped sharing.
All right, so I
Time
think,
for some grilling.
yeah, I think we're off. Oh, there was a question.
Oh,
Does
wait.
app support 2FA like Duo?
Yes. So we can set up the authentication. So the authentication for the data center is going to come through authentication through your data center. Okay, that's not redundant. It's not coming just through authentication that's on the phone. So we're going to have multiple levels of authentication. As I mentioned, we do have Bluetooth access, and then of course you can leverage your Wi-Fi access. So there's not a risk. I'm not answering your question directly. I'm kind of trying to go a little bit beyond it. We're not going to have an environment where somebody's going to be able to randomly drive by. Oh, I think I got a password. I think I've been able to hack through. You're going to have to allow a specific device, a specific MAC address, a specific Bluetooth address, etc., for a mobile device to connect and look at the environment. But once you can, it's a very valuable tool.
And I think it's also important to know when we're talking about the mobile and the phone is also with QuickSync on the PowerEdge line. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with QuickSync, but it's the Bluetooth version of configuring iDRAC when you're within physical proximity of that server. So literally, I go ahead and I rack the server and I connect the out-of-band management. I go to my top of racks or end of row, what have you, for networking. But instead of picking up the crash cart, plugging in, again, capturing the iDRAC just to set username and password and some static IP information, that same application allows you to connect via Bluetooth, again, putting the phone really close to the server to set up that initial out-of-band management. So then at that point in time, you don't need that crash cart, you don't need your laptop. You scan a QR code when you pull out for authentication reasons, right? And then based off that QR code, once it's authenticated, then you can go ahead and configure that.
Yeah.
So that is really cool. It's a differentiator, especially at scale. So,
Patrick, I just thought I'd add to something to that is, so with the Open Manage Mobile, with Open Manage Enterprise, and with QuickSync, you can put multiple security levels in there. So you could have a junior level technician, a member of your organization who has the authority to look at things, to scan and to gather information, but they couldn't definitely do updates and patches. And if you also look at what you can do with Open Manage Enterprise, we provide a couple of other packages so that you can leverage and manage your databases. So you could then put together an update or a patch which would go out just like you were trying to do. You were trying to update that server, and that was running VMware. But let's just say that you've got important applications on there. You've got Oracle on there that's running on top of that VMware. And you don't want to have somebody that's basically doing an update or a patch that could bring down or impact that database. So you could actually go in and define important databases that are on important platforms. So even though you move those platforms around those databases, OME is going to keep track of that. So when somebody wants to do update, maintenance, move power management, there's going to be alerts. It's going to check on basically the authority of that person wanting to make those changes. So again, a lot of checks and balances in here to make sure you operate securely.
cool. And then also, if there's any other further questions, I want to drop my email here in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me directly if there's any questions, or if there's anything that you want to take offline, or you want to see maybe more of a customized in one view, if you want to go in a little bit deeper detail in something specifically. Other than that, I don't see any more questions coming in. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick that over to Tori for the next part of what's to come. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick, Sunny, and John. That was great. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead. I think I have, Lauren, I believe I have your correct video pinned right now. Let me know if I need to switch it. There you are. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Lauren and Chef Klaus here for the next part of our thing. I hope everyone got their box as well. But yes, let's go ahead and start.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for having us be a part of your event today. We are joining you live from the Weber Grill Restaurant and Grill Academy in Lombard, Illinois. It's one of our 5 locations and one of our 3 Grill Academy locations. And I don't know about you, Chef, but it is a sweaty, balmy, lovely day for grilling.
A little bit of a swampy July day in Chicago in July, but that's pretty normal, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect for grilling.
Yeah.
Because who wants to get their kitchen all hot and gross when it's this hot outside, right?
Right.
No,
None of us.
definitely not.
None of us. None of us. Well, a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. This, by the way, this is Chef Klaus. He is going to be teaching us how to grill the perfect steak and shrimp today, which I think is going to be,
It's going to be delicious.
It's going to be delicious. I mean, I've, seen you do the best work in some of these conditions like this.
Well, she has been known to send me out on several inclement weather days. So,
a little snow, a little rain,
a little monsoon, blizzards,
tornado, whatever. And folks, if you can't see us, if you go to the videos across your screen, the little boxes, there's 3 dots in a little blue box. If you click on that, it will go ahead and allow for you to pin it. Or I think maybe the host might be spotlighting us now. It looks like somebody said that they can see it now, so perfect. Well, Chef Klaus, why don't you go ahead and start getting set up? I'm going to go through a couple of housekeeping things as we get started here.
All right, you do that.
Thank you. So we are going to show you, like I said, how to grill the perfect bone-in ribeye steak and some grilled shrimp. Like Tori said, all of you should have received your packages by now. A little bit of housekeeping. If you are going to grill along with us, which you're totally welcome to do, go ahead and take those steaks out of the refrigerator and the shrimp out of the refrigerator now. You want to start to get to be a little bit warmed up in room temperature, and we'll explain why as we kind of go throughout the class. Number 2, if your steak happens to be frozen still, go ahead and run that under some cool running water. It should defrost pretty quickly, especially in these conditions. And if you're looking to grill it tonight, I know some of you might have received your boxes and said, oh, you know what, the dry ice made it frozen. I'm going to throw it back in the freezer. That's fine too. You can grill it whenever you want. We do encourage you to kind of watch the entire show and demonstration, take your notes, and then grill later. But like I said, if you want to grill along, you're more than welcome to. If you are grilling along, we do ask that you turn your camera on just so that we can make sure that we aren't getting ahead of ourselves, and that we're making sure that you're grilling at a good pace, and that we can see if you've got any questions and things like that. Speaking of questions, to ask your questions to Chef Klaus, we're going to ask that you type them into the chat. Unfortunately, he cannot hear you. Only I can hear you. And it just makes it easier for me to interject with your questions on your behalf throughout the class if I see them in the chat. If for some reason I don't answer your question right away, it's because I probably know we're going to talk about that in just a bit. And we'll be sure to acknowledge your question when we get there. Well, I think that's enough housekeeping. I know everyone wants to get to the exciting part. So Chef Klaus, why don't you take it away from there?
All right. Well, thank you, Lauren. And yeah, don't want to talk about the weather too much here, folks, but it really comes down to is when that craving for grilling takes place. It doesn't matter what's going on outside. The true grillers are going to be outside and they're going to be taking care of that craving, definitely, without a doubt. So, folks, today we're going to be talking primarily on our surf and turf. Today we have a beautiful prime bone-in ribeye. We have some shrimp to go with that, so we're going to be cooking it. First of all, here on our gas grill, this is a 4-burner Summit, and we'll still be talking about how it relates to working on the charcoal grill too. So, first of all, if you guys want to put some notes out there, you want to shout out, kind of let us know if you're definitely a gas griller, charcoal all the way, baby, or if it's more of a wood pellets or over your campfire, whichever you choose. Let us know. We'll definitely touch some subjects on all of those. And we always start off with basic tips on lighting up your grills, making sure it stays nice and clean, and get up to the right temperature. So as far as this gas grill here, we do have a liquid propane. And one of the big tips I put out there is make sure, folks, you have your nozzle turned way open. There's a little ball valve inside of it there. It will restrict the gas flow. And that way you're not guessing with your gas burners as you're lighting up the grill. Pretty simple and straightforward for most of the gas grills these days. The Weber has an automatic igniter system like a lot of others out there. If you can handle a dial, you should be able to handle a grill. You know the convenience factor of it. And we're going to establish our grilling zones. So once you have the lid open, you want to go ahead and fire up your grill. A lot of times it's pushing in, listen for the gas, ignite it, and establish your zones. We're going to go today with our center grates, which has a sear station, which means a higher BTU output. It means a stronger gas valve coming out of there, so it's going to be a lot hotter for great sear. We're just going to light up the center ones. We're going to go the left side off, the right side off as well. And we're shooting for a good ambient temperature of a direct medium high heat, which is 450 to 550. 500 is your sweet spot. Close the lid and let that heat up really nice and hot. And then at that point, you could always give it a good scrape from any particulates that might have been left on there from the time before. If you do not have one of these vertical burners, they have more of these horizontal burners. We always recommend sparking up your back burners and turning your front ones off or on low, whatever it takes to get to that about 500-degree mark. If you have a charcoal grill, folks, so we always recommend using one of our chimneys, or you can always try to create your own if you're a little DIY person and use a couple of coffee cans, hollowed out. This large one right here, this is fantastic for your classic 22-inch kettle. And we load it up here about within an inch from the top with briquettes. And from that point, we would put it onto the lower charcoal grate. So lid is removed, top grate is removed, put this on the lower grates. And rather than just go ahead and dousing it with a lighter fluid, which we know it's pretty much like gasoline, you know, there's much better ways out there today. Technology has come a while. And Weber's come out with these lighter cubes here already several years ago, which are fantastic. It's a little paraffin wax bound fuel source. It is odorless, it's tasteless in your food, as well as waterproof. So it's great for obviously your grills. Well, get your fire pit out back, take it out camping with you. I know I do. 2 of these lit up underneath your chimney here. Should be ample amount of fuel to get your charcoal going. And it gets it nice and even as well too, because a lot of times you just build up the whole teepee side of it. You have big sections that are maybe not lighting up right, and they're just kind of scattered about. And exactly when it starts to cook, we got that heavy smoke coming off the top of it. It takes roughly about 15-20 minutes, depending on the wind as well too. If it's kind of dead wind like it is today, which adds to the beautiful humidity. We're going to wait for that heavy smoke to dissipate. It's going to be more like clear smoke. We're going to have flames coming out of the top of it. And we're going to look inside. It's going to be more like charcoal with black with gray tips. And then it'll be further cooked along as you go down to the bottom of the chimney. At that point, you want to establish your grill zones on your charcoal grill, just like you would on your gas. You can either go ahead and pile it up in the center. It should be the bullseye setup with the outer ring is going to be indirect. You could also establish the left and right-hand sides. Or you could also use our charcoal baskets, which keeps it nice and condensed, also prolongs the life of your charcoal as well. I mean, you should be getting a good solid 2 hours of grilling on this. Even at that last 2-hour mark, it should be around 400 degrees. And we've used that here in the Grill Academy live classes quite a bit, and people are yet amazed about how well that does. So once your charcoal has been dumped, add your top grate back on, close the lid, and just make sure that your air holes on the bottom are wide open, as well as on top of your damper lid. And that generates a sort of a vacuum for the air coming in to feed the fire. And just really want to make sure your grates are all really hot before you start grilling. That means don't just throw your steaks on. Let's make sure that it gets really nice and hot. Otherwise, what happens is that those grates start to cook into the steak itself, and it kind of becomes one. So we got to flip it over, no matter what you do, tear it. It's like
No bueno.
ripping a Band-Aid off too early. We don't want that.
John, we are broadcasting from Lombard, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. We have a Grill Academy also in Schaumburg, Illinois, which is a little about 25 minutes north of it here.
15 if you drive like an Autobahn.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And then we also have a Grill Academy in St. Louis, Missouri as well. We do have a Weber Grill restaurant in Indianapolis and downtown Chicago in addition to those 3 locations, just to answer your question. Sorry.
Cool.
And then Chef, that was such great information. I just want to confirm though. So I don't take the 20-pound bag of charcoal and dump it in the bottom of my charcoal grill and then like light it on fire, right?
That would be bad. That would be bad. I mean, folks, the days of just lighting up all your gas burners or loading up the entire perimeter of your charcoal grill are over. I mean, all you're going to have is just constant flare-ups. That beautiful prime steak you have there is going to turn into a piece of charcoal itself.
Got it.
Won't be that enjoyable.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Establish zones. Lesson number 1 or 2, because you said the first one was to make sure I open the lid when I light the gas grill on.
Yep.
So I don't like
Pretty much.
blow off my eyebrows.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we got some good meat. What are we grilling today?
So what we have here today for you is, you can see right here, is a prepackaged, beautiful 22-ounce bone-in prime ribeye. And this is it has a couple purposes in this packaging. For one, it's easy for storage and shipping, and as well as if you want to, you can always store this in the refrigerator still for another 28 days, because that's the minimum. And with this wet age in this packaging that we had received it, or you had received it, that wet aging is a great way of just tenderizing that meat itself, as opposed to dry aging. Dry aging actually is in large subprimal cuts, which is the rib loin, kept in a humidity, temperature-controlled environment, and there it's going to be at least from 30 to 60 days. You'll even see that some of your local butchers, some of the smaller shops, will have a dry age cabinet with a little date and time when that piece of beef is going to be ready. And what happens inside of there, it's like there's going to be a lot of evaporation of moisture, and it's going to be a concentration of flavor itself. It's going to change the flavor a little bit for it. I'm not going to lie. It's going to get a little gamey inside of that room there, but what's going to be below it is just ultra super tender of a steak, and it's something you have to try if you have not yet. Okay, the cost is a little bit higher, obviously, because of the process, and as well as the loss of yield just because of the evaporation. But we're going to take it out of the packaging right now and set it aside, and it's going to be a little moist just because of the lack of air inside of it. So you can just take a paper towel or such, kind of pat it dry. You want to make sure you're not working with a wet product, because it'll have trouble getting that good caramelization on the grill, as well as for the seasoning. Now, if you look at this ribeye steak, it is definitely not short of fats, right? This is actually perfectly well trimmed around the side of it. We're not looking for more than a 1/4 inch of fat around it. It's such a swanky piece of meat because, I mean, it's so complex with different muscles here that are being separated by these large parts of fat right here. And it's, remember, this is also from a larger cut from a rib loin again, which is made for prime rib, which again is slow and low and super tender. And all that fat, that's all goodness. The marbleization here as well too. It's riddled here all throughout it. It's going to be noted with prime steaks for sure. Less for choice and definitely less for select. But that's all good fat again too, because that's all going to render down to it. It just makes that steak one of the most delicious cuts of beef that's out there. And then, folks, this is why we have to throw this little saying in here for you, that when it comes to fat in your steaks,
Fat is
bacon,
flavor.
butter, fat is flavor.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to have this here. This is pretty much where you want to have it. Now, the bone-in is exactly, it's like a to be or not to be, right? It's a big question. The bone-in is going to add an insulation as well to the steak to keep it nice and juicy and less drier on these outer muscles. And if you ever had yourself a tomahawk steak beforehand, you're looking about the same cut of meat that it is with the full bone, about 8 to 12 inches longer than this. But the reality for it, it's more for presentation, that wow factor, and we know it is. Sometimes you just got to have that. We eat with our eyes, and we love the looks of it, but it's not going to add to the flavor any much more that this bone already does. You're just paying for the extra weight. So that's one of my big tips. So when you go into the butcher shops and you're looking for a good, great cut of meat, you want to make sure, for one, that it's trimmed well, only about a 1/4 inch worth of fat, because you're paying price per pound. 2, you want to make sure it's nice, bright and red, and looking nice and moist. You do not want to have gray whatsoever. If it's gray, stay away.
If it's green,
run. Shouldn't be having that out there in the first place. And not to mention as well too, it's like the thicker cut is the better, right? We're looking for a nice big round here in the second, in the center. Casually speaking, we call this the eye, and the cap is on the outside of it. So the larger cut of the larger eye is going to be much more of the tender meat, and the thicker part of that's there. Now, if this is too much fat here for you, if you're not familiar with it, or it's just not your cut, you can always go down to a New York strip steak, which is like the Probably the most favorite steak that we sell here, the most common as well. New York strip steak has a 1/4-inch fat cap on top, a nice combination of lean meat with a little bit of marbleization in there as well. And then you can always go for the lean to mean steak, which is the filet mignon. And everybody loves that one as well too, because it can be super tender if stir temperature is about medium or below. We're going to be seasoning this here shortly, and we're actually going to use a oil here for it, and which is not just any oil for it. You want to use more of an extra virgin olive oil blended. So blended oil, because
Why? Yeah, I was gonna say why.
well, the extra virgin olive oil, as delicious as it is, my Italian friend over here, is that it's cold pressed from olives, which means it really hasn't seen any heat. All the flavors are still there originally from the way it was pressed, never seen heat, and thus under high temperatures for a prolonged period of time, it turns bitter and really just destroys all that's there. Best to say that at the end, if you want to, you can always drizzle some nice, expensive imported olive oil to make the flavors really count. So you're looking for oils that have a higher flash point or burn point. So we have here 75% canola oil, 25% extra virgin, and from there, we do have a couple other options out there.
Yeah,
Right.
I like to use grapeseed oil.
Avocado oil is a good one.
I've also think we've tried soy oil,
Linseed oil,
peanut oil,
sunflower seed oil,
cottonwood seed oil.
peanut oil.
I think I did
Yeah.
say peanut oil.
That's a good amount. Just Google it. Just Google, you find it. Oils with high flash point, and you're sure to have a variety at any supermarket you're going to be at as well too.
Yeah.
So we're going to just get this a light coat of oil here because we like to oil our steaks rather than the grate. And the reason for it is going to be a couple of different benefits. One is that it really adheres to lets the seasoning adhere to the steak itself. Two, it's going to really add to the caramelization. It conducts the heat and closes off the pores, makes it nice and juicy. And the third benefit is probably why you oiled your grill grate in the first place, is to avoid the sticking. The seasoning of choice for this one is obviously going to be our Weber branded Chicago steak seasoning. Something I'll be receiving as well. And we're going to go ahead and give it a nice drizzle. Now we're going about 4 to 6 inches and above. All right. Outside of overcooking your steak, one way to really ruin it is over season it. If you have a really thick steak, you can add a little bit more to it because it can handle it. But remember, you can always add spice, but you can't take it away. And once that's on there, just kind of coat anything that fell off to the sides, and it'll be ready to go. It's a light pad on there, ready to go. And if there aren't any other further questions about the steak itself, you can shoot it to me or Lauren.
Well,
She
I
will
was
let
just
me
kind of
know.
asking everybody what their favorite steak was. I got everything from filet to top sirloin, porterhouse. So yeah, we've got some people who really like,
Oh, so there's a
everything.
bunch of favorite cuts that are out there. And we were just doing some outside skirt steak the other day too. We did both straight up with the steak seasoning, and we did also with a nice marinated sort of a Southwest style cilantro, lime juice, and garlic and cumin. Oh my God, so good.
It was
So good.
delicious. Well, speaking of marinating,
Yes,
we got some of these beautiful
do.
shrimp.
I do. We have these. We have this beautiful shrimp here. So what they are jumbo shrimp. Otherwise, we call them U15s, which means these numbers related to it are going to be how many shrimp per pound. So if you ever go to the grocery market, you kind of see this here, whether they're U8 or U15. The lower the number, the larger the shrimp or prawn. And if you get below U8 or U6, you're going to be just might as well having lobsters because
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
yeah, unless there's some sort of mutant shrimp that are going to be gargantuans.
That's
So-
I was gonna say one of the questions we always get when it comes to shrimp is, what's the difference between like a farm raised or a wild caught?
Well, like farm raised, it's like let's be clear about this. It's not going to be like in a pond out back behind me. All right, it's like I got shrimp for you. You're in Lombard.
That'd be a little scary, eh?
Maybe some crawfish, maybe. But the what it is anytime with farm raised or sustainable seafood is that it's usually in secure bays off the oceans as well too, where it's going to be prevented from being overfished. And usually the smaller ones are always tossed back, so they're allowed to grow up and kind of get to the full size. And still get their full nutrients in comparison to wild caught. That's when you're just going out there, like the wild caught Texas Gulf shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
That's going out there and just throwing out nets out there. We're talking like from Forrest Gump style, right? Shrimp boat.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, it's all natural too. So a lot of times when you're doing that, netting shrimp as well, you're going to catch a lot of different other seafood out there. So there's always a mix. So flavors are great. One of the things I'm looking for shrimp though, Lauren, is that I'm looking for to make sure it's not pumped with some sort of a saline solution or some sort of other added chemicals, preservatives. I'm looking for more all natural. And that's really have to watch out for. Like we're saying about avoiding lighter fluid and gasoline, is to avoid any additional chemicals. So in addition to the package y'all received, you guys got a great Weber's Greatest Hits cookbook. It's one of my favorites. It has a little accumulation and a summary of some of the best recipes that our interim chef Jamie Purviance had put together. And there's some great recipes inside of there, both shrimp and ribeye, as well as some skewers they had received too from the Weber skewers.
Yeah.
Now, I'm using these just 2 bamboo 6-inch skewers. What I like to do for this one, either if it's going to be a single long one, I like to go 2 skewers for this shrimp because you're going to get a whole pound's worth. So we're talking about 15 shrimp. It just makes it a whole lot easier for you, saying work smarter, not harder, flipping over skewers, multiple shrimp rather than individual ones and trying to rush quickly before they all overcook. So I'm going to go ahead and take these skewers here. I'm going to put one through the fattier side of the shrimp itself and the other one through the tail end of it. And this is going to keep the shape of the shrimp, because a lot of times they're going to curl up when they're cooking. Give a little gap. And also make sure the tails are all in the same direction so they have even cooking as well. Obviously, the fatter parts can take a little bit longer, but these are super fast and easy up on the grill.
Yeah.
That's why they're so easily get overcooked as well, too, because you only need to go about 3 minutes per side on the direct heat, and they're going to be done. Now, Laura mentioned these are marinated, and they are. There's our herb garlic marinade. It's a little added tip here for you, especially with our herb gardens kind of going wild right now. You need to cut some of that down, start processing it. Use a food blender, food processor, or a stick blender. We usually go that oil blender we're talking about, raw peeled garlic, a bunch of parsley, rosemary off the stem, and it's either thyme or oregano as well to remove any woody stems. Don't worry, the small ones are in there. They're all kind of flimsy and light. They're all puree nicely together. And you're going to kind of bring it up to like a pesto consistency, maybe even a little bit lighter. And if you have a whole bunch of it, just put an airtight container in the refrigerator. It'll hold for weeks. Or you can also freeze them in ice cube trays and put them in a little Ziploc plastic baggie and just break it out whenever you want to during those cold weather months where you'd be paying an arm and a leg for fresh herbs at the grocery market.
Right.
Yeah. Now, you're more than welcome to use your Chicago steak seasoning if you want to, but this classic barbecue right here, this is going to be a nice addition for flavor for the shrimp itself. And you don't have to use it just for like barbecue sauce laden items. Just a little bit, it goes a long way. It adds a nice little sweet and heat combination. And ours has a big chunks of the raw brown sugar inside of there as well. Nice coating from there. And we're going to put this on after the steak gets moved in direct, because it only takes, again, 6 minutes worth of grilling. Comparison to your steak, which could be anywhere from 10 to 35 minutes, depends on the temperature you want to have. Yeah, 35 minutes to be more like for that well done side of things. So now we want to make sure that our grates are ready to go. We're over 500 degrees. We're going to be going here directly in the center where our main heat is going to be. Again, you could always give it a nice little scrape on the grill. If you had anything on there, probably turned to ash by now. And the same thing would go on your charcoal grill as well too. Make sure it gets nice and clean. And we're going to put this directly over the flames and the charcoal grill and the gas. So push on a little bit. We're going to set a timer here for about 1.5 minutes. And that way,
Minute and a
close
half?
the lid, 1.5 minutes, yep. So Lauren, please set a timer for 1.5 minutes. I do not have my Alexa available or Siri, but I got
Way
Lauren.
cooler than both of them.
So it's a little sassy, I like it. Yeah.
Got the Chicago attitude over here.
Absolutely. So
I know I keep interrupting here,
shoot.
but I do want to share, like, we got Jason who's saying that he's got some South African smoke seasoning that he loves on using shrimp from Trader Joe's. And we had Ron was even saying that even with the steaks and stuff like that, he's just a salt and pepper guy.
Mhm.
But the thing is that, and John was talking about marinating his shrimp for 3 hours now.
Yep.
So I think the whole point here that I'm trying to make is that, it's called culinary arts, right?
Yep.
So it allows for you to use the recipes that you have or that you shared with us, or that in that Weber greatest hits
same
book
thing
that you
goes
got.
with the techniques. There's going to be a lot of different techniques out there, and we're just going to show you one direction with it, and you can definitely play around with it. That cookbook you have, same thing. It's like go through it, go through recipes down through a T. That's how the chef had written it, and then from there you get to experiment it from there. Maybe I want to try this method, or I want to put this side with this side, or use this sauce for that sauce. The salt and pepper seasoning, that's a purist. You know, they just really want to taste the meat itself, and they don't need to have extra garlic and the other pepper or the other spices are going to be added to it.
And with a prime steak like this, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Get as much of that original flavor as you can, right?
I love it.
But, you know, that steak spice is pretty damn phenomenal. I mean,
it is. I mean, it doesn't have to be used just on steaks too, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Here in the restaurants, we actually use it on our green beans.
Yep.
I recently found this out, so I have to share this on every class now.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So we should be
there's your timer. Yep, there's your 1.5-minute timer.
Okay. Yeah, the chef's internal timer was coming off. So, boom, there we go, folks.
Ooh, beautiful.
Grate some sear marks. Now we're going to turn this about a quarter turn. We're going to put it here in a new spot on the grill because the original spot, all that heat and energy was used up. We want to get the same type of sear and coating on that side. Close the lid again. And we're not going to mess around with the lid, right? We're going to keep it closed. So it means then get it in, get it out fast, right?
Right.
Because what's going to happen is you kind of get away from the whole point of covered grilling, covered cooking, is that it kind of works as a convection, as the heat kind of circulates around it and adds to the full grilling experience and the quality of your steak or whatever it is you're grilling. The more times you keep on peeking because you're uncertain about it or something's burning on it, the white smoke is good coming off it, all right? That's all part of it. So you have to use a little willpower not to do that.
Right.
It's going to affect and be a negative outcome to your product itself. So
well,
here's the next setting.
Yeah, say the next thing they're going to walk away with, right?
Right. Folks, if you're looking.
You're not cooking.
Yep, I know it's juicy, but it's just so true.
There's a couple things you want to make sure you remember. Fat is flavor. If you're looking, you're not cooking. You know?
Yeah. Drill it in your head right there.
Exactly.
So we got the timer we have again is about another 1.5 minutes. Okay.
Oh, I had put it in there.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even say it.
Okay.
So when we do this now, when the timer goes off, we're going to flip it over on the backside. We're going to go for about another 1.5 minutes, and then we're going to move our steak indirect. Now, if you're using your sear burner on your one of your Weber grills, just make sure that when it's on high, full powered, it's going to be really strong. You might want to reduce that temperature or reduce that time or the direct flame. It's going to be great. It's fine. It's because it still has the hard sear, and it actually closes everything off. The steak's going to still be cold and rare in the center of it. What we're looking is trying to get the steak to about 100 degrees, right around that mark. Move it indirect, and we let it finish off slowly to get to where we need it to be. Okay. Now I had it sitting out at room temperature, which out here is roughly about
120 degrees.
There's a nice 120 degrees with the heat index, right? So hopefully my steak was 120. It was a little warmer than I usually would have it. So we're setting the timer again now for about another 1.5 minutes.
Done.
And now this is the direct sear method, right? So we got to touch the reverse sear method because usually when you do these classes, we always got questions about that. If you haven't done this, you have to try it as well. Start off on a lower temperature grill. You can go about 350. That's totally fine. And you're going to oil and season your steaks just like we had done. And you're going to put your steak indirect. So it's not even going to be touching the main flames. You're going to put that in there for roughly about anywhere from 10-15 minutes. And you want to flip it over once in between it. Again, we're trying to get to internal temperature about 100 degrees. This slowly brings your steak up to temperature. It's like doing the low and slow method when it comes to making a whole prime rib. So that way you get more of a coast-to-coast cut. That's going to be more of all that universal, the uniform color that you're looking for, whether it's medium rare, medium. And then you're going to pull it off, and then you're going to let it rest for about another couple minutes. You could always get your other side dishes going, crank up the temperature on your grills. This one's going to get easily up to about 750. And then you can just put your steak back on it. Just finish off with a short amount of time directly over the main flame. On the charcoal itself, you could always add more charcoal to it too. In fact, I've done it before with lighting up a chimney and just having those hot flames come off the top, and I put my center grate right on the top of it, and it just did a hard char that way. Also, to think about if you're a big fan of black and blue, you know, Pittsburgh Rare.
Timer?
Yep. Now, this is the first time I'm going to take a temperature check, folks. I'm not going to do it beforehand. Now, we're going to move it over here on the indirect side of it. Take my digital thermometer, make sure it's on Fahrenheit, not Celsius. And we're going to insert it from this at an angle right into the center of it, just so the tip is directly in there. So I'm going to be down to probably about 110. Yeah, 110, 109, dropping a little bit. That's the meatier part of the steak. All right, don't be going on the thinner parts of the steak here. You're more concerned about the main center of it. We want to bring that one up to probably about 120, 125 maximum in the center of it. So we're going to keep that indirect. The shrimp is going to go on direct heat now. Again, fresh spot. We're going to set a timer here for 3 minutes. And I guarantee that our steak is going to be pretty much at the level we're looking for. So again, it was at a little over 500 degrees. Now I open the lid, spent some time. It's showing it's below 300. So it just shows you, drops 150 to 200 degrees every time you open that lid.
Yep. So it sure does. And that's why it's important to keep that lid closed. Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Patrick, to answer your question and to review for my knowledge and everyone else's out there. So we did the steak, got it all prepared. We put it on direct heat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the part where the burners were on, the indirect, the burners are off.
Yep.
Okay. And if I was on a charcoal grill, that would be where there's no charcoal. And then the direct would be where the charcoal is.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I go 1.5 minutes direct, pick it up, rotate it 90 degrees, new spot.
New spot. Or
another
the flame.
1.5 minutes.
Yep.
Direct still. Then I flip it over.
Yep.
New spot.
Correct.
1.5 minutes. And then I move it to indirect.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So
Thank you.
again, that's just one of those techniques there, kind of let it go nice and slow, because all that fat we saw there, we really wanted, when it was hard, when it was cold, we want it to be all nice and soft, and just get it absorbed, let the meat absorb as much as possible. And then there's ribeyes, because of all fat that's well too, you get a lot of flare-ups. You know, so if you have that, it's like, for one, it's a good chance that you have the grill open too long, maybe the temperature is too high on your grill as well too. And excuse me. What you can always do, if you do experience in a section where there's just a constant flame, you can always remove the steak from the grill, close the lid, wait till that goes out, and then continue cooking as well, because it has happened before. So definitely, when I'm doing my class with the ribeye steaks, it's like, they're 4 to 5, 6 people up on a big grill like this, and oh my God, flare-ups everywhere. It's like, for one, folks, let's close the grill, and so you have to maneuver around it.
John asked,
Yeah.
What about cooking the steak you said when it's a block of ice? Cook the frozen steak, and how much direct and indirect?
Yeah, I'm not going to cook a frozen steak.
No.
But there are some techniques out there for people who have done it direct from frozen. It's actually, some of them have used the high infrared type of grills as well too. What that's doing is giving a superheated radiant heat, and you're able to go that route with it, but definitely not in this format. It's not something we recommend. If you're in a hurry with it, just make sure you pull it out ahead of time. That's it. Run into cold water, let that go that way.
Yeah, it goes pretty quick with the cool
It does.
water.
The steaks, they don't take too long, maybe 20 minutes max. Yeah.
Sorry guys, I have a little fan from.
Just got a little Mickey Mouse, Disney World fan over there, and
It's
I
so hot.
it's so hot. A little
Guys
Amazon
said thaw
hot.
for only 15 minutes.
Okay.
Well, it says thaw until it's, completely defrosted.
Yeah, it's
And then,
defrosted.
we also wanted to get to a little bit more closer to the room temperature, because Chef, you'll explain if you didn't already.
Yeah. Real quick, we're gonna touch the shrimp. We got nice char on it. All the shells turning nice and red. The other side, obviously, still a bit raw. So we're gonna put that over, let that go about another 3 minutes. Close the lid, and we're gonna take a look at the steak. Again, we're gonna let it rest right now, because I know we're gonna be at that level. We're about right around. We're definitely now over 130. So we're gonna be kind of going for the more on the medium side of it, which you got to allow the carryover cook time, folks. Carryover cook time, which has to do with if your temperature ranges on your recipe card, it'll show that medium rare is up to about 135, medium up to 145, medium 55 for medium well, and 165 for well done. So you want to pull it off about 10 degrees below that. Rest it for about 3 to 5 minutes. You can put a loose piece of foil over the top of it so it doesn't get cold. And all those juices and blood and everything has been all kind of agitated while during the cooking process. You need that steak to settle down. Yeah, settle down. You just need to rest. So otherwise you slice into it right away, and then it's just going to bleed out onto your plates, and then then suddenly your medium is more medium well. But the question you had...
so it says, the guide says to only thaw for 15 minutes, but I think it means to pull the steak out of the refrigerator and let it sit for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas defrosting it is a different process.
Yeah, that's gonna be until it's done for the most part of it, for defrosting of it. You can either do for one. Best way to do is put it in the refrigerator overnight and just let it come slowly up to thaw out. If you need to go quicker on it, just let it in cold, cool running water. That's all by guidelines, sanitation guidelines, to be the safest. If otherwise use the defrost method on the microwave as well. It's just, but you always tend to have some cooked ends of the steaks and stuff as well. So I don't like to do that method. But the resting of the steak at room temperature is about 30 minutes to an hour. May say 15 minutes on there. Point is to get the chill off it. Figure if you can come from an ice cold environment into a high heat environment, all the proteins are really just going to seize up on you. And it's not going to be as tender as it could have been. Not to mention you got some inconsistent cooking on it as well too.
Patrick wants to know, how long can that steak stay in the refrigerator until it's cooked? Because we're talking about the 28-day period or whatnot.
Easily like another 28 days, as long as it's still in that airtight, secured packaging that you have. Anytime that it has a little gap in it, it's going to be definitely going to be affected, and the air gets to it. We always say air kills in the industry, and that goes the same way with anything frozen. So that's why you always want to have it, vacuum sealed as much as possible, or really tightly wrapped up in plastic wrap and a Ziploc on top of it. Because if you just throw it in there, it has a gap in it, you're going to get freezer burn for sure. Not good. So you can probably go about 28 days still on side of your refrigerator. Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Ron was making a comment about how we needed to have an ice cold beer while we're out here today, and
You're
I said,
absolutely right.
Wish we could have one, because we do have another class after this.
It's a casual setting.
But then Jason was saying that we should look into the Athletic Brewing beer. It's a non-alcoholic beer that we could try anytime.
Yeah.
I always love tips like that. I like to share them with you.
Yeah, go for the German style Radler as well too. It's kind of mixed in between a half Sprite, half lager to go with it, and it's just nice and fresh. And and especially in Germany, I was working split shifts the entire time. You had a couple of those during your break.
Right, exactly. You got a couple of hours for the next one.
Yeah.
So those shrimp are probably done now.
They're done. They're done, folks. I'm right over here to this close up here. So what I have here is I got the shrimp. Now we're looking at it. I got a big view of it. Right there you go. See how nice and white it is? There's no gray whatsoever on the meatier part of the shrimp. It's going to be plump and firm, but yet not overcooked. So that's going to be ready to go. Okay. So I'm going to close the lid on this blazing grill behind me. Okay. The backside is getting a little warm.
Yeah.
We got about a minute or two left here before I go ahead and do the big reveal on our steak. It's a great time to get yourself ready for the main course. So I'm here for you want to sit down, you want and eat ready to eat when your steak is ready. So you want to make sure, for one, you got the next glass of wine poured, you got that beer cracked open, I have your side dish ready to go, kids' hands getting washed, dog is fed, and be able to sit down and enjoy your full meal to the fullest there. I mean, we have about, over 80-some viewers here today?
Yeah. We had 80, 83, 84 people that were supposed,
Fantastic. And they're probably from scattered all across the board, right?
They sure are.
Good,
But they're probably all hungry after looking at that steak.
Well, yeah, that's it. This is the second part of your willpower has got to take place, right? Because you have it there, you want to let it rest. You really want to cut it, just dive into it. I know my producer Bob is in the background over there forward licking his chops because he knows somebody's got to eat the steak and shrimp.
So sad.
Yeah, it's so sad, the things we got to go through here just to take care of you. So, folks, I'm about to slice into it. Take a sharp knife. I got my Weber carbine knife here, and we're going to go ahead. Bone is right here. I'll say that for it's great to kind of pick it up and chomp at it towards the end of your main meal. For a nice slicing motions all the way throughout it. You don't need to press down hard on it because it's going to be super nice and tender right now, as I can tell.
A couple of questions are popping up as you're doing that there.
Do it.
The first one, what does resting do?
Resting, it allows all the juices in the blood to really just kind of settle down, and it disperses again with inside the steak. So rather than if you cut it too soon, then it tends to just run out of the steak and then be a little drier cut of meat, and you lose some of the flavorings as well too.
And then we had two questions about how long that resting period should be.
About 3 to 5 minutes. The larger the cut of the meat it is, a little more time. So like if you're going to be doing a whole roast, whole tenderloin, whole pork roast, whole strip loin, you want to go longer in there, like up to 15 minutes to really settle down. That even includes like when you're doing turkey on the grill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, you got another question?
I've got a couple more here.
All right, cool.
Klaus, what is your favorite current says blank pair, well, current pair with steak right now. So I'm guessing you mean
Beverage.
wine pairing.
Yeah, yeah. You know, right now, my what I'm really into some nice Pinot Noirs. I like the nice nice full bouquet in there. It's, you know, it's got a little more of a you know, balance of some like dark fruits and cherries that might be coming out of there.
Always go with steak.
And it pairs great with the steak itself. If you like a little more bites, and I say definitely go to like Cabernet Sauvignon. Bordello is always great to go with your steaks as well too. Not so much on the white side of it for me on it too, but I could, you know.
I like Sauvignon Blanc with steak.
Sauvignon Blanc, something that's going to be some herbal undertones as well.
Yeah.
That's going to help kind of cut some of that hardiness of the steak itself. Should pair pretty well.
Absolutely.
No.
Well, okay, we have one more. What was the question? Oh, notice a comment. Patrick was saying that he wants to be Bob in the future.
When I grow up, I want to be Bob. Sit back and get your IT going here and reap the bounty and the booty coming out of the grill.
Patrick, you can be Bob anytime you want to come into one of our restaurants.
So one of the last finishing touches I'm going to have for you is a couple things you can do is take the same Chicago steak seasoning, or if you want to go with sea salt or Himalayan pink salt, you can also take that and just give a little piece of a little sprinkle of salt as well too, right over the cut slices. It really brings the flavor out. Also, if you wanted to, while the steak is still whole, get yourself a nice hot pan, fresh butter, crushed garlic, some fresh herbs. Let that melt down. Put your steak into it, and just kind of nappy. Just kind of cover that steak there with some of that fresh butter as well. It's a great combination. So, folks.
Sounds good.
Yeah, if there's any other further questions, you saw our emails that popped up as well. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask some questions, you know, about this or about any other grilling questions you might have. And it's like, you know, for the right price, we'll get flown out to you as well.
Sure,
and,
why not?
Yeah, we'll grill out in your backyard with you, right? And
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I gotta say thank you so much for letting us be part of this, and it's been a pleasure. Folks, enjoy the rest of your summer. Happy grilling and stay safe. Thank you. Lauren?
Thank you, Chef Klaus.
Got it.
Again, just want to say thank you for letting us be a part of your day today. I hope that you picked up a tip or two. If you are joining us in the Midwest for any of our other locations, feel free to come in and join us. We'd love to have you. We're constantly having classes on other topics as well, so you feel free to come and join us for one of those. Also, if you guys have any feedback or want to send us a picture of how your steak turns out, email me below. I would love to see how how that goes, and we're always looking to improve our classes. So we just want to say thank you again. We appreciate everybody for letting us be a part of this, and Dell and Advizex and everybody. So again, happy grilling.
Thanks, y'all.